Hello, in this video we will show you how our persistent object framework works within ObjectStudio. You see here the desktop and we have ObjectStudio loaded. In the middle we see our modeling tool with our model loaded, and you see some of the submodels and the hierarchy. On the right you see the class browser with the classes loaded, and you see when I scroll over the classes that I have methods there, and these are all generated methods by the modeling tool. These are mostly accessors, initializers, getters, and relationship maintenance methods. The model is here loaded, and you see also that we have the launcher on the left with modeling tool and mapping tool loaded. So we were scrolling over the classes a bit, and now we are going to go to our modeling tool. We click it open and you see that we have a mapping tool open. Sorry, it was mapping tool. First thing we're going to create, we create a new atlas, which we call for a mapping, which the name we give to a mapping. We call it OSA, and we don't create an active record, since this is a normal mapping, a decent good mapping. Then we're going to make a database connection. But we can say that we are connecting to a Postgres database, and it's a Postgres database we connect by the TCP/IP port, just to make clear that we can connect to such things, which was not possible in the past. So we make a connection. You see that we are directly connected with the public scheme, which is where we will normally put our tables for this project. We can create and add atlases, so we're going to see tables, and we see which tables we have in the database. Momentarily it's just an ARS table, which we are not going to use, which was already there by the previous owner of this database. We will add classes to our mapping, and we can import classes from the modeling tool. You see here the classes we had in our modeling tool. We can also add classes from a namespace, and you can select your namespace in the drop-down box, and you see all the classes from a certain namespace. We can import from a bundle or a package. You again select, or you can import from all classes in your image. You simply start typing something, and there will be a filter that shows you all the classes that have the word that you are typing in their name. For this one we are going to import from the modeling tool. We select all classes, and then we remove the persistent object because we don't need that one. Inherited attributes are automatically shown in the hierarchy of the class. As you see here, we have article open, and we have the ID from persistent object in there, as well as all the other attributes. If we click on an association, you see on the right that the according class is also shown. If we open it in detail, you see what the definition is from attributes. ID is an integer, and you can scroll over them as you see here. And also with the relationship, you see it's an identity set of order lines in order line. For tables, we can create tables and we can generate tables. Create tables is create a table in the mapping tool. Generated is generated to the database. So now we're going to create our classes based on our objects. So we will open the create table menu item right away. So when we create a table, a bunch of stuff is preset, like the table name, which will be article because the object is article. We see our columns, ID integer, but we're going to change it because ID is a serial, which will be automatically filled in by the database. And we'll also state it's a primary key, that it's unique, and it cannot be nullable. And we're going to save that one. You can change these items for each proposed column, like product number, it's okay. You see also here that ID is a primary key now. we'll reshow this one. We also have foreign key constraints, but we'll come back to that one later in the demo. So we pressed OK, but we were wrong. We will now take a look. You see the ID, it has the key for primary key there, and you see that the product number has a character, is a variable character of 1024. Unit price is not an integer, it will be a double or numeric. We'll see this here with the size of 8, a scale of 2, or scale of 8, precision 2. That's what's meant here. And we create the table. We've not generated in the database yet. We create this way another table. We will go to the customer, and we do the same things. We change the ID to a serial, but the others are already preset correctly by what's in the mapping modeling tool. It takes it over directly, and it creates a table with the correct info. You see again, the primary key is the ID, so all constraints for this one will be created when we generate the tables. This one's a bit more complex because here we have an order and we have relationships here. So the ID is again a serial, primary key unique and not nullable. And now we're going to the foreign key constraints because we are going to define some foreign keys. So we have the relationship, and the customer in order line is connected with the ID of the customer. We add that, we save it, and we have a foreign key constraint. We will do the same, or we need to do the same for the order line. No, that's later one. Sorry, I was wrong. In the order line we have the same thing, just that we need to create two relationships there. And you see how we are going to create them. So the order is an integer, and we change the order name because we've noticed that order can be a reserved word, so we need to make sure we don't crash when we generate the tables because of this one. So we make two foreign key constraints, one on article and one for the order, because one order line refers to an order, so we need to make that link. These foreign key constraints are very important to create relationships in the mappings automatically. Otherwise the tool cannot define how to generate foreign key constraints. You also see, if you see order line, you see the key and you see order has a reference, and on the bottom right you see to which table and what the foreign key constraint exactly is. You can still do changes here no matter what. We look now at our database tool, and you will see that there are no tables at the moment. Just ARS and test nanoseconds are in there, but for the rest nothing is created. So the next step is to generate all tables. This will be done. Here's a halt on one of the accessors, but that was intended. So if we now go, we've generated tables, everything is done. So if we now go back to our database tool, 1 second, it's coming. We refresh, and you see here that the sequences are created for the tables, for the automatic ID assignments, and you also see that in article we have the columns, we have the constraints, etc. So everything is created there, and we have a database generated actually directly from the mapping tool. Now we go back to the mapping tool, and we will generate our mappings. So we will say which item of the object references to which field in the database. We are going to do automatic mapping, and it's already done. So if you now look at the article table, you see if we click on an instance, that at the bottom you can see to which table it relates. Now it didn't map the unit price because the unit price is a double in the modeling tool and is a numeric in the database, which cannot be mapped directly. So we're going to do a direct mapping manually. We say unit price in article refers to the article unit price in article, and we create that one. And now you see that it's created. At the bottom left you see the mapping. You can do this for certain columns, you can do this for all kinds of stuff. We will create one more, and this will be relationships. We're going to show them right away. We just browse over it and you see what is mapped, what is not mapped. If you need to change something, you can do this here, mostly visually. Drag drop is also possible, isn't something you can do. So here, for instance, we see that our customer is not linked to the customer table. So we will do this manually. Also, the order line gave us a problem. Not sure why. So we're going to create them manually. So you right click, you say detail mapping, and there you can create a mapping. In this case it will be a 1 to n mapping. Just a second. Yeah. And now you can say it's a 1-to-1 relationship between order line article and the article table ID. We join them and we map them. And this mapping is done. This way you can do more complex mapping, like say multiple fields mapping to one instance variable or other stuff. You can do quite complex stuff with it. So we're going to create one more this way just to show you how this is done. This is also a 1-to-n mapping at 1-to-1, and the order customer is references to the ID of the customer. And we map this. Yeah, you don't see all the mouse clicks, sorry. And here we have another 1-to-1 between the order and the customer. And this is a 1-to-n mapping, because an order can have multiple order lines. So it's the order ID here that we map to the order line, order field or column in the database. Well, they're mapped, and I think we have everything correctly mapped this way. And now we are going to generate the code that will take care of the mapping between database and objects. This goes very quickly as well. We're just making sure we have everything mapped. And now we're going to write a descriptor. We tell them which package we want to have the descriptor. We do OK, and actually the code is already generated. If we now go back to the class browser, you see that we have a descriptor system, and if you look at that descriptor system, you see the classes we have, the tables we have. You see the class models, we have descriptors for each class, and we have the table definitions for each class. This is needed for the mapping tool to work, or the mapping to work. Once you have generated this, you don't really need the mapping tool anymore, because in your runtime you will just use this file of this class, the descriptor system, and this will take care of all your object relational persistency for you. It will get tables, etc. for you. If we now go back to the mapping tool and we have our database, we have populated it in the meantime as well, so we've put data in it, and now you can see rows from the table tree view, and you see that we have you see the row data of the tables. If you look at the view rows,
view all rows you see. It's raw data like it's in the database. You view it directly. This can be This can be very useful if you have to watch data from special database. We can also watch the objects like this one here. You simply do an inspect and it will show you the data in the database in objects. For this order is a you have proxy, so if you double click on it, you'll see that we open a proxy. One second. So we have here a customer. We go to the orders and you see it's an order. You click on the order, you can see the date, you can see the order line, and you can see the order numbers. You can inspect this. Here we see all the order lines, and you can look at the articles, do the orders. So you can really do a full inspection of the database, the data you get. I think this is also very handy if you have a database, you have no clue what's in the tables, you import the tables, you look at the tables raw data. In one of the perspectives of the mapping tool, you can generate classes from the tables, and then you can see them as objects in your mapping tool, and this will help you to analyze data from a database you are less familiar with and you like to review.